Good afternoon, my name is Olga Tumanova, and I want to thank everybody who joins us here in Ukraine Media Center Ukraine Informants here, none of the war, and day 331 of the full-scale aggression of Russian Federation in our land. So joining us online is Borys Filatov, the mayor of Dnipro. Mr. Borys, good afternoon. Good afternoon, Mr. Borys. I want to proceed right away to the aftermath of the missile strike of on the 14th of January, of the tragic strike committed by the Russians, the tragedy that we all follow. What are the consequences? Are all the rescue works over on the spot? And we know about the meeting that you had yesterday with the people who lived in that building. Can you tell us about some resolutions that were already taken? Okay, let's go step by step. Everybody knows that there were 45 casualties, including 6 children. More than 20 people are in difficult condition in the hospitals. 6 people are still missing. Officially, the rescue operation is over, but we keep searching for them. Our utility services, they continue searching the adjacent blocks of the building, something that we were unable to do before. The visual inspection tells us that it's about 90 apartments that were destroyed, and after we finish the instruments inspection, we will have the exact number, but I think we will need about 2 weeks to complete it. Yesterday I had a meeting with people. Well, I was meeting people every day, but now that the rescue operation is over, we all got together near the building in the yard of the school 66. We were talking about 1 hour and a half. More than 100 people arrived, and me and my deputies, we told the people how we are about to help the people, because as we say, the story of each and every family is an individual tragedy. My deputies handed their phone numbers to the people, along with the phone numbers of the departments of the office of the mayor, so they can communicate 24/7, exchange messages in the messengers. We start questioning people. There is a questionnaire containing 20 items which people have to fill in terms of their needs. Somebody lost their furniture, documents, some personal belongings, but yeah, we understand everybody lost their dwellings, their apartments. For example, some children, they lost their laptops for remote education, remote training in the schools. As I told my subordinates, we cannot bring back people's lives, but there is another degree of the problem, so we have to keep working, because you understand, if it will be about 200 apartments that were damaged or destroyed fully, we have to take all reasonable and possible efforts to help the people in terms of at least their ability. Well, Mr. Borys, do you understand what will be the further destiny of this building? Is it going to be reconstructed, or what's going to happen to it? Okay, I will tell you about the philosophy of the mayor's office in this regard. Me, as a mayor, I am a specialist in municipal economy. This is my job. So talking about the reconstruction of this particular building, it violates all the laws and logic of the municipal construction. It will be the building of horror. If we relocate everybody to a new building, every day there will be problems, including the problem of alcoholism, some terrible memories. So because every day people will be remembering this tragedy. So the, it's like a building built on a cemetery or just nearby. So just as I mentioned, every story of each and every family is is an individual tragedy, and people have different plans for lives. Because as you reasonably mentioned, it's year 9 of the war, and since 2014 we have a very powerful program in our municipal office, the families of the heroes, the aid to the heroes, where we pay out the aid to the families of those perished ones. So in case of every tragedy, well, it requires an individual approach. When somebody dies in the front lines, there are mothers and wives coming with a question how to divide that money. So we took the way of full monetization. Somebody will want to buy the an apartment on a secondary market, somebody would want it to buy on a primary market, some may want to move to their relatives. For example, there were the elderly coming up to me, they say, don't reconstruct everything for me, just give me some money, and I will go to live with my sister, and I will give that money to my grandchildren. So our efforts are currently focused on this aid to have the maximum amount of money allocated and distributed among the people and let them decide. Well, because we can build a new building, our city is pretty rich, we have municipal funds, municipal budget funds, but it's about 1 year and a half, and just like I said in the very beginning, to have the people build it in a building of sorrow is terrible. So there is a compensation for losses program, compensation for losses resulting from missile strikes. So we will pay out at least 1 million hryvnia, is about $25,000 from municipal budget. Well, it's a good money. I don't want to boast. I don't want to boast with the municipal council, but I haven't heard about any similar program in any regional community. Just give us some time, and by the evening we will have a report prepared. There is a responsible business. There are charity organizations, they already accumulated, they already raised some funds, and we're currently pondering over a financial mechanism. Maybe we will disburse it through a charity mechanism so people could receive those amounts of money directly. There is already almost an agreement, or maybe not an agreement, but negotiations with the municipal council. They want to help too, so we're raising funds. There are sister cities coming to us, talking to us, like Osaka and Köln. They want to help us, and they are want to give us money too. They want to give warm clothes and food rations, but we have enough of it. Our citizens of Dnipro all stands united. The citizens bring everything they can, they help us, so we don't really need that aid with the warm clothing. Money is something that is needed. It's generally accepted equivalent. We want to gather the most possible to distribute among the people. Mr. Borys, so how many apartments were in this apartment block in total, and do we understand it correctly that those who are left without their apartments, and did you already solve the issue with temporary billeting for those people? Well, let's put it this way, it's a big building. It has 18 blocks. It was built with block by block in years 73, 75, 76. and it was united as a one building. But I told you at the beginning that 2 blocks were destroyed completely. There was an official information about 72 apartments first, but it's a minor error because on the first floor there was a municipal medical ambulatory. There was also a shop where a woman perished, a cashier. Thus, 64 apartments are destroyed to the ground, and just as I mentioned, we are performing the instrument inspection, and we need to understand how many more apartments we should disassemble. We will take all reasonable efforts to retain those apartments for the people, but until we sort it out, it's people's safety. But so as I mentioned, we need at least 2 weeks for this. I hope we will be able to retain the most apartments possible. But talking about the building in whole, we already supply electric power and water to other blocks that are on the other side, and today it's already Dnipro, which is in operation there, and we will supply gas there already, so all the municipal utility services are in coordination. So we take our best efforts to produce the best possible effect. You mentioned this like magical unification of all the citizens of Dnipro. So can you, and about the money, can you give more comments on that? Yes, really on the spot of tragedy, the rescuers found some money. I don't want to disclose any details because as I posted on my Facebook, there was a huge amount of money, but I cannot tell you where they were, in which package, and what was the amount, and in which currency. Because after the money was found, they were handed to the national police. They are in Soborny regional district department, and the policemen expect the people who deem themselves the owners of those of that package, that those people may come and describe the package so that the police can return that package to the people. We understand, Mr. Borys, that unfortunately the crimes of the Russians are not over yet. There were more strikes in the civil infrastructure in your city. So since the beginning of the full-scale invasion, what's the evaluation of the total damage in your city? Well, it's difficult to evaluate the level of destruction in the city in figures, because we all understand that first of all they tried to target the critical infrastructure, and the critical infrastructure may be located not only inside the city but outside too. If we talk about the transformer substations, there are permanent targeting, permanent strikes on the territory of thermal power plant, but it's being owned by DTEC, so it should be their calculation. It should be them who does the calculations. There were strikes, about 4 strikes on our airport, so there is no single intact spot there. But talking about the residential areas, we have a lot of damage, we have a lot of destruction of the private buildings, and I have no versions why do they target the residential areas where no military base is located. You know, to use an Iskander missile worth of millions of dollars to target Rybalska or the residential buildings in other districts, I cannot explain it other than terror. Well, the whole country heard about the story of this dog named Crimea who was crying on the ruins of the house where the whole family perished with children. So this program would pay disbursement of funds in amount of 1 million. It was adopted long before, and we already paid out million of hryvnias to different families, and there is still a problem. And honestly, I don't know how to solve that problem. It should be solved on central government level, because there are private businesses targeted as well. They bombed the car maintenance station. It was a private business where the cars were repaired. Why did they target that area? I have no idea. And the owner of this business suffered substantial losses, and he went bankrupt. But we as a municipality, we cannot help him, because those municipal budget funds, we cannot help the businessman. So the situation is the same with the people who had this shop in the destroyed building in the first floor, and I don't know how to calculate their losses. Mr. Borys, as to the critical infrastructure, getting back to this topic, was the situation in the city with the power supply, water supply? Do you have rolling power shutdown schedules in place, or emergency schedules? Yeah, now there are emergency schedules in place where the power has been shut down without warning after the last missile strike. But Dnipropetrovsk region is a very powerful. There is a lot of industry and a lot of power consumption, so the problems are more or less alike with the problems of Lviv, Odessa, or Kyiv. In fact, we vacillate between scheduled power shutdowns and emergency shutdowns, and Ukrenergo lowers the consumption limits all the time, but we keep working. There is coordination with Ukrenergo, there is coordination with DTEC and other private power supply companies. There are complaints about the shutdowns, but everybody understands it's a war. Well, and I cannot help but asking about the internally displaced persons. We understand that Dnipro became a new home for many people who were fleeing the warfare. How many people did you accept? Do you have any issues in this regard? Well, the problems that we face are those that are being faced by other territorial communities. But anyway, thank you for the question. I'll put it this way: Dnipro is #1 today in terms of internally displaced people. The official number as of today is only officially registered 185,000 people. In Lviv, for example, it's 115,000. So we're #1, and it's a very big problem, and it's kind of difficult to solve these problems. But availing myself of opportunity, I want to mention that there was an initiative brought up by Irina Vereshchuk, which was not supported further on, unfortunately. What that can, for example, we can do another re-registration of internally displaced person. Like, we want to help everybody, but I understand those are the humongous numbers, 185,000 people. Those people, they can get registered and they can move on. There are different stories, different situations. As I said, every family has their story, their tragedy. People can get registered with us. They can have their children taught in our schools, but then they may move on to Poltava because the real estate is cheaper there. I have some indirect numbers, judging by the numbers of declarations with family doctors. I'm seeing the number of children in the schools and those who were applying for humanitarian aid for the disbursements, but I cannot reach out to everybody because the picture is quite dynamic, and I cannot identify the exact figures. I was ordering the relevant services, the relevant agencies to have to find the jobs for the maximum number of people to support them in this search for their new jobs. So we were able to find the jobs for about 10,000 people, but again, the figure 185,000, I don't know where are the rest of them, so it's a problem, and probably we need to join our efforts with the central government and the local communities. Thank you, sir. We have questions in the studio. Good afternoon. Irina Mamchur, Ukrinform. Could you please tell us if there is already an understanding about the aid? How will it be divided into segments? You said that you called the businesses to get involved. You said that the municipality is getting involved, the military administration. So what will be the fraction of this support provided by the charity, the businesses, and so on? And I will have another question, if I may. Well, look, we will pay maximum of 1 million hryvnias by the municipality. We're now in negotiations with the military administration. They're saying as much as you pay out, we disburse the same, but I don't know the mechanism so far because it requires a special subvention from the government or maybe regional budget. The situation is different with the business because those are the private funds, but we agreed it already with the businessmen that they will receive the list of those affected from us, and the business will decide how to pay out those funds. You see, the municipality is the municipal council. Well, it's a good question because somebody lost a one-room apartment, but the others lost a three-room or even five-room apartment. But there is a regulation, a correlation of number of people living in a certain number of square meters. So we have a fixed amount, and the private business will decide how to disburse those funds and in what amount. So once again, let's wait. So I think that by the evening we will have the announcements, because for what I know, the private businesses gathered about 1 million hryvnias. You reported yesterday that among the perished ones, there were parents found who were already buried, but the child of 1 year and a half was not yet found. And that may it mean that this child may be among the people that were not yet identified? Well, I don't really want to answer this question. This is the district where I was born and where I was growing up. I studied in school there. My sister lives just 3 apartment blocks away. So let the law enforcement answer this question about whether they found the child and whether they identified them. Mr. Borys, thank you very much for joining us. Thank you for all the information. Dear colleagues, joining us was Borys Filatov, the mayor of Dnipro. Right now our team is working on the schedule for the next week. Follow our announcements, bear with us, trust in our armed forces, and work together for the victory. Glory to Ukraine.